Hello again, Keena on the Daily, and today I am going to bake bread. I decided that with this 30-day challenge to do something fun and interesting, something that I enjoy, something that could possibly help someone else. I thought about bread. So yesterday the challenge was for me. I made the fire starters out of paper towel holders and toilet paper holders. So today we're going to make bread. This is a recipe that's been in our family for years. I made it for the children when they were younger. They're all grown now. It's very, very easy, and I thought that if I shared it, maybe someone else would like to make some bread. So I have everything pretty much pre-measured, and I hope I have the camera set where you can see everything that I do. I'm not tech savvy, so this is something that's totally new for me. I'm doing it on my own, but however, I wanted to do something that I like, and I love to cook. Cooking, to me, it's very relaxing, and I love sharing what I cook. So hopefully this will be something that you can use or pass along to someone else. So I'm going to make biscuits. They're very easy, and I am using half whole wheat pastry flour and then half regular all-purpose unbleached white flour. So you could do it either way. My kids, when they were growing up, if I made it all whole wheat, they weren't all crazy about that because it's a little denser. So I measured everything out. So it's just 1 cup of the whole wheat pastry flour. You just pour that in the bowl. And then this is the all-purpose flour, so that's 2 cups. And you just pour it in the bowl, and I'll just set all this aside. And then I have to have 2.5, I think it's tablespoons. Hang on a second, I'm going to tell you wrong. 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder, and then 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. So I already measured those, so we'll pour those in. And then I also had a pinch of salt that I added in already. And the recipe calls for sugar, but I don't put sugar in mine because we eat a lot of honey with our bread, so don't need the extra sugar. So we add that. And then we have to have butter. And so I use regular butter. I don't use margarine. And it's you have to have 1/4 cup of either shortening or butter, and I use half and half. So as you can see, I did half butter and then shortening, and I sort of break it up. It's pretty cold. I break it up, and then I use my pastry cutter to put it all, mash it all together. I'm going to show you what it looks like. I don't know if you could see that really well. It's sticking to my pastry cutter. And so you just sort of mash it all around until it's crumbly. It'll take a minute to do that. Oh, and by the way, I preheated my oven before I turned the video on, so it's already preheated to 350. So that's pretty much what you would want to preheat it to. This is an easy recipe. What I actually like about the recipe is that when you're making this bread, you don't have to cut it out into shapes. You just actually put the whole thing on the, I do mine on the pan already. I'll show you as I go along. But you just sort of put it on the pan and you cut it, but I cut mine into squares. And once it's in squares, I don't cut it all the way through so they're not separated. So when they bake, it bakes up really nice, and the insides are still pretty. They don't dry out, and they don't get crispy on the outside, or, you know, the way biscuits are on the outside. They have a little drier texture when you keep it all together on the pan, and you don't cut them into separate pieces. It just makes the bread a lot more moist. Also, you have to put milk, and I ran out. I don't have buttermilk, so it calls for 3/4 cup of buttermilk. I don't have that, so I am using lemon juice to make mine. It's going to take a little bit of time because I didn't do this. I should have done it earlier. It usually takes about 10 minutes because I don't have it, so I just add a little bit of lemon juice to the cup and stir. And you should let it sit for about 10 minutes, but I've made it before and not let it sit and just use it, and it turns out okay. So this is a stone, if you can see it. It's my pizza stone. I use it, got it from Pampered Chef years ago. This is over 30 years old. And when I do my bread, instead of doing it on the tabletop or the countertop or a pastry sheet, I'm just going to do mine right on here, and you'll be able to see. So I kept some extra flour out. I'm trying to position this where you can see it. And typically you would just put the flour on your surface that you would like to knead your biscuits on, but I am just going to do mine right here in this pan here, and we're going to pour in the milk. You can still see that. You pour in the milk, and I am just going to use a fork. Use a fork, stir it up. You see that? Hang on a second, I don't want it to run on the floor. And because I use pastry flours, sometimes it just gets it's sticky. So when I put the flour on you can see that it's really pretty sticky. And so I put the flour on my pan, but it'll help me with getting it to the consistency that I like. I am going to scrape it all on here. You know, a lot of times you do this on a counter or something, and then you just sort of knead it all around. Not a lot, because you don't want the bread to come out tough. And it's all sticky, and what I do is take my flour, sprinkle a little bit on top, and get that off there. Gonna need some on my hand because it's pretty sticky. I don't know if you can see me, and so I just sort of work the bread just a little bit. If you can see, it's starting to hold together a little bit. Can you see that? It was very sticky. I wasn't able to pick it up at first. But you don't want to do this really long time, because it's just going to make your bread tough. Okay, we're ready now. I want all this off. So we're going to sit that on a saucer. Take this and pour it back into my bowl, because I don't want all this on my cookie sheet cooking and getting, well, my stone, and getting hard. So clean that off, put it on back on here. There. Now, this is what I love. So you just press it out. You don't have to make it really big. There you go. Do I have any more flour in here? I do. Okay. Now, take this knife here. I could use a pizza cutter. And you just go through. I usually double this recipe when I make this. And the reason I'm putting flour on my knife so that it won't stick to the bread. And then you just cut. And because I did that, this bread is going to come out. Hand or sheet. The bread is going to come out stuck together, but it won't be dried out. It'll be very moist in the inside. So want you to see this. I'm going to hold this up so you can see it. Well, I want my stone to fall. Okay, see how I cut that? It's not separated, so you want to keep it together. It takes a while for the stone to heat up, so I'm going to put it in here, and it's hot, and turn my temp up to 400. Okay, that's where it should have been preheated, but now it's going to take, I think it's like 12 minutes for it to cook. But on my stone, it's going to actually take longer because it takes the stone time to heat up, and I didn't preheat my stone. So now we're going to wait for about 12 to 15 minutes, and then the bread will be done.